Well, a good morning and a happy Tuesday for everyone here on listening to the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I want to welcome you into the Throwing with Justin from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And, I want to just kind of take a step back, kind of want to talk to you guys a little bit. Listen, I apologize for the last 4 days scheduled not being on the air, not talking to you guys, not putting up a show. And it all started back on Tuesday, right? And I did the show on Tuesday. I felt great doing some things, getting into the rhythm. And then I jumped into, went to work, got home that night, and apparently I just kind of blacked out. I went to bed as soon as I got home. I, just pretty much unresponsive, and from there I was I wasn't feeling good. All right, so I slept all Tuesday night, woke up Wednesday morning, and I woke up and I was just like, man, I'm just not doing the show if I can't function. All right, I didn't have nothing prepared for me, and I just wasn't ready to do a show, so I was a little bummed in myself that I couldn't put on a show on Wednesday morning for you guys, because I was excited to talk about a lot of things. And you know me, I like to make sure that if I come on the air, if I come on and I talk to you guys and you guys listen to me, that I give you guys the absolute best. All right. So, there is a reason why I'm not on. It's either I'm doing something that is occupying the times from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., or it's trying to do, or if I'm just not able to do it. And when I say when I'm not able to do it, I'm talking about, me either being sick, me not feeling well, me just not having enough to go through with anything. So I like to put my best foot forward. And I like the 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It gives me a couple hours before work. It gives me a couple hours to sleep in. I don't get home until at least 10 o'clock, if not closer to midnight, with my work schedule. All right. So trying to come home, trying to catch up on sports and trying to catch up on the news and getting a show ready during the day. Trust me, when I'm on my breaks, when I'm on my lunches, you guys could see that I'm taking notes, writing questions down, taking notes for highlights, getting ready for the next week, next day. All right, what are we going to talk about then? But when it comes down to wanting to put the best product out there, that's what I take a lot of pride into. Obviously, Thursday, right? So I wasn't feeling good on Wednesday. When it came down to Thursday, I was sitting here and, I had some obligations I had to meet. All right. Thursday rolled into Friday. Some of those obligations and the appointments I had to go to on Thursday rolled into Friday, and that's kind of finished off the week. Very, very disappointed because I was excited to come on Friday, talk to you guys about football, get you guys ready for the Bengals and Cowboys game and all that stuff. And then, come to yesterday, it was just the same thing as Wednesday for some reason. Just wasn't feeling into it. So, I want to apologize. I want to thank everyone for their patience on, sticking with me. And, woke up this morning. I went actually, it was interesting. And I think more so for the reason why I didn't do a show yesterday on Monday was because, we had, I was up probably pretty much late on Sunday night, probably like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to put together a lot of the content and information that you guys from over the weekend. There's a lot of stuff going on. I tell you that. So a little, I want to, like I said, a little back trace here, everything that's gone over the weekend. We got a lot to talk about. Full impact 2-hour episode here on a Tuesday morning. All right. I think let's get our heads right on here today as we dive into the world of sports. We got a lot of football stuff. And I mean, man, I think if you're a sports fan in Cincinnati, you're a little bummed out about everything that's going around. All right. Especially since the Cincinnati Bengals dropped the second straight game, this time to the Dallas Cowboys back on Sunday to a field goal. All right. Let's put it this way. From, Cincinnati not being ranked to the Cincinnati Reds, having a crappy season. And then this is the last thing you've expected from the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think let me point it. All right. Let me ask you this. Is it too early, all right, to start to hit the panic button for the Bengals this season? Is it too early to look out for the Bengals and see what to say, all right, this is just not a team? I mean, it has not been working out this year. I mean, you losing one game is one thing. To lose two games, especially going into Sunday and losing a game without the starting quarterback and Dak Prescott. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know whether it's what do we need to work on, or whether to get frustrated with this organization. I'm upset. I don't know about you guys, but I'm upset about the Cincinnati Bengals dropping the game on Sunday to the Dallas Cowboys, going 0-2 to begin the season. All right, I'm upset. Poor performance. Joe Burrow's getting sacked again. I mean, he's had more sacks in the last two games than he's had all postseason long, and that's not a good thing to talk about the comparisons. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals in the offseason has done their due diligence by going out there and picking up key offensive line players. And for what? All right. This was on paper. This is supposed to be the top 5 offensive line in the NFL. And yet they don't play like that. All right. 6 more sacks given to Joe Burrow on Sunday's game. I'm very upset. I'm very pissed. I'm going to say I'm going to pissed off. I mean, this is not the way, I think the season is more prone and is more valued this year for Joe Burrow than anything else. You know why? Because he's in the same conversations right now. And when he's getting compared to, he's being matched up with guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Okay. And, here's the thing. And those guys are being compared to the new generation of the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Ben Roethlisberger. Right? I mean, so you have a guy that has the potential of the world, but yet again, you don't have a team to defend him. And listen, it's been a while since the Bengals have won, and they surprised a lot of people last year. But I told people this year, let's not sit too heavily on the Bengals. All right, a couple weeks ago, I sat here and I told you guys that it was going to be, all right, is the ego of going to the Super Bowl going to hold precedence over this year's season, or is it going to be, or are they going to be able to come out and actually play football? Well, I don't think it's the ego side. They're not playing with the cockiness. But at the same time, what are they playing for? How are they playing? I find it, they have so much trouble. Their defense is amazing. All right, we'll hand that down. I mean, they kept 20 points and less. And I think as a defense perspective, if you're the Cincinnati, any football team, matter of fact, if you could hold your team to 20 points or under, then you've had a successful game. So the defense is nothing to worry about. All right. I mean, obviously people are going to team up and tackle on Jamar Chase. They know how talented he is. So Jamar Chase is going to, you're going to have to find some other guys to hit to. Boyd, Higgins, so forth, which is going to give a lot of younger talent an opportunity to rise. But let me tell you is that, and then the run factor. I mean, look at the, excuse me, but look at the Green Bay Packers. Right? Look at the strategy they're going to have is that they're going to have the one run factor that plays a key key part into the success that the Green Bay Packers are going to have this year after they beat the Bears on Sunday night. Right? The Bengals are going to have to figure something out. The offensive line are going to have to get themselves together. And Joe Burrow, I mean, he's not doing too terrible. I'm not going to go on the edge and say that Joe Burrow sucks, all right, because he doesn't suck. He's I think when you have, when I'm getting beat up and sacked and I got defensive linemen and linebackers and cornerbacks up in my grill 24/7 behind there trying to get a ball off, I'm going to throw my game off a little bit. I'm going to be distracted and worry about them more than not. I mean, Joe Burrow needs to kind of take a step back, get himself together and try to come up with something over here, because coming up on Sunday this week, I think is a bigger key with victory, because you can't start off the season 0-3. I mean, I was looking into statistics, and statistics show that there was only 2 NFL teams that has went to the Super Bowl, lost the Super Bowl, or went to the Super Bowl, lost the Super Bowl, come back and start the season off 0-2. And that was the 16 Seattle Seahawks, and they went on to win the divisional playoffs before they lost. And then that was the 0-2 Rams, where they end up losing, not even making it to the playoffs the following year. I told you guys at the end of last season is that statistics show, all right, statistics show that teams who made it to the Super Bowl that did not win, majority of them do not return to the playoffs. So my biggest fear right now heading into week 3, moving forward, I don't want to prolong. I mean, I still think that the Bengals is a favorite. All right, maybe not in the division. I'm going to stand by my prediction a couple of weeks ago, where we had the Cincinnati Bengals projected to win the AFC West. I will stand by that as and I'm going to eat that. I will own up to that. But when it comes down, right now, the way that we're looking at things, Baltimore Ravens right now, I'm having them favored. I mean, and listen, I'm going to stand by the Bengals still in a solid position to have a wild card opportunity, to host a wild card, at least a wild card slot. But for me, a wild card slot is a step backwards, in my opinion. So we will see. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I want to show highlights today and dive a little bit more deep into it. So we'll talk a little bit more about Bengals football here today. Like I said, a lot of stuff that we should have talked about yesterday, we're talking about today. We'll cover some NFL games over the last 2 weeks. And listen, if you guys are following us over on our Facebook page, I projected the victory, the win for Thursday night football, and I projected my wins on Sunday football, on Sunday games, right, on our TNC Sports Talk Facebook page. So I did not project any wins last night in the NFL Monday Night Football doubleheader. You got the Titans and the Bills and the Vikings and the Eagles. So I do not get credit for any of those games because I did not project them. So I will talk to you about my projections. We'll dive a little bit into the NFL and some of the highlights, because I know there's some stories I want to talk about. All right. And then we will also want to get to the Major League Baseball. We'll get you to some standings. The Reds kick off a 2-game series against the Boston Red Sox beginning tonight. And first pitch is at 6:40. And, I know that the season's already done. Okay. But my question is for you guys. What I want to keep the fans out there thinking is, over the next 3 weeks, think about this. But I want you to find some memorable moments. Every season and every team, no matter how good, whether it's the Dodgers going to 100 wins on the season, whether it's the Padres signing Bob Melvin, whether it's Aaron Judge on the verge to hitting 65 home runs at the end of the season. When every team and every season has some positive things that you could walk away. And I know it's difficult with the season that the Reds have had this year, and they only got a few more weeks left, and we're trying to stay positive. But we already know the season that the Reds have had. So, Mike, what I want you guys to think about over the next few weeks, and we'll talk about this, we'll break this down, and there's a couple of things that we want to kind of share and go over and have an open discussion. But what are some positive things that you could take away this season from the Cincinnati Reds and start looking into getting ready next weekend, next season, as they head into a different format? We'll explain a little bit of that coming up later on. We'll take a little bit of Monday Night Raw. We got a big wrestling weekend as well, because we have you had Seth Rollins face Bobby Lashley last night. Austin Theory takes on Kevin Owens last night. Judgment Day makes an impact. Who's challenging next for Bianca Belair in the Raw Women's Championship? And, big week, right, coming up here tomorrow at AEW Grand Slam. 2 major title matches approaches us. So we'll talk a little bit about that. A couple more questions I want you guys to think about. And, I know it's only been 2 weeks, but for me, I want you guys to think about, and I want you guys to share, if you don't mind, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on, Twitter, just let me know your thoughts. I want to hear what your thoughts on how they should utilize Braun Strowman. I know he's only returned for 2 weeks, and I know Braun Strowman, he's a monster among men. He's kind of came in, he's dominated, and right now he's working with Alpha Academy, kind of just bulldozing, the going back and forth. I mean, it makes Otis look really good. Being able to back on SmackDown, being able to pick him up and body slam him. I mean, I'll take that any day. But I mean, realistically, what are the expectations for Braun Strowman to return to WWE and for the success that he has? Obviously, a lot of people believe that he should have one of the championships. All right, I know that there's controversy lingering around, or conversations lingering around, about the Roman Reigns splitting, or having to vacate one of the titles, and we'll probably dive into that later on this week. But I'll cover some of that, but I have my own take on that. But what are the expectations for Roman Reigns, and for Braun Strowman as he comes back and returns to the WWE? What are the expectations for Braun Strowman? What do you expect him to do? How quickly do you expect him to win a title? Maybe some of the favorite matches now since he's returned that you've expected him. All right, so we have a very impactful Tuesday. We'll get you some football coverage. We'll give you highlights and get you ready for the Reds game coming up tonight. And we'll also talk a little bit about wrestling, some college, diving into some local high school stuff, and much more. We'll take a break. We'll come on back here, just getting things started here on a Tuesday. You guys are listening to the Throw-In with Justin here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. $9:25 here on the Throw-In with Justin on this fine Tuesday morning. I woke up this morning, I took my girls out to school, and it was foggy. I'll tell you that. You couldn't see maybe 10 feet in front of you. It was starting to get bad. One thing I was looking into this week, launching some news Sunday night, they're getting excited. It's supposed to heat up over here for the next few days. Today, tomorrow, it's supposed to get into even the 90s, if not, the high 90s for that factor. And then it's supposed to start cooling off. And I'm talking about when it cools off, I'm talking about it's supposed to get up to 95 projected on Wednesday, and then drop all the way down to like the 70s, if not 60s. It's supposed to be really nice as we enter the fall time. And as we talk about fall at the end of September, it feels good. I love the weather. Now, I'm not a big fan of the 80s. I've said this on the show plenty of times on this channel that I'm not a big fan of, the high 80s, 90s. I mean, I sweat. I have a, I feel gross. And then you try to go work. Right now I'm working at a warehouse where, it's out in 89 outside and it's 105 inside. That's just how it is. So I'm excited for the weather to start cooling down and the temperatures to start feeling good. It would be nice to start wearing jeans again, pants, right? And I've been wearing shorts all season long. All right, well, we head into a Tuesday and we start getting ready for the Cincinnati Reds to play, and they kick off a 2-game series tonight against the um, Boston Red Sox. And obviously the season hasn't turned out as planned, and not on top of that is that I've talked to you guys. I like to play spoiler, right? I mean, I would like, I told you guys that, hey, the Reds need to play for pride at the end of September. There's a lot of things that you need to look out for, right? There's a chance for the younger guys to come up and to to make a name for themselves. Obviously there's guys that are veterans. There's veterans that are going to be free agents this year that are looking to build a case and a resume for the off season, right? You know, um, and now there's also guys, that are young that are trying to make their case and build their resume, saying, "Hey, we're good enough. We could be at the pros this time next year, right? And help a team, succeed." And I'm a little bummed this season because I did not go out to a baseball game, and probably rightfully so, right? With everything that has kind of gone on, and I'm a little bummed about it. But you know what? The season's said and done. I didn't get an opportunity to go out there and catch a Reds game. I know I'm planned on heading out to a couple games next year, and I can't wait until we dive into next year's schedule, because next year's schedule completely different. They've only going to play each of their teams in their division 14 times, because the remainder of the time they're going to face everyone in the American League. So yeah, every year the Reds will play the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Angels, the Guardians, Chicago, and the White Sox. So a new format that's coming in 2023 that you could actually look exciting to. But you talking about excitement, I asked you before break, is I want you guys over the next few weeks to do me a favor. I want you guys to look into what couple exciting things that you could take away from this 2022 season. I mean, I know it hasn't been the greatest. I know that there's been a lot of things that people were upset about at the beginning of the year, with the Castellinis making comments about the fans. I know that there was a lot of, controversy. People were saying, "Oh, they're just gonna sell." You saw the departure of Luis Castillo and Tommy Pham, and every time they seemed to get some sort of role going on, it was taken away from them. I mean, one thing I will tell you that I enjoyed listening to was the week that the Reds took the series over the New York Yankees. Probably one of the, teams that are winning their division this year. One of the teams that are heading into, to the playoffs in a comfortable spot. You talk about Aaron Judge, for example, prime example there. So there's a good amount of, there's a couple of things I think you could walk away with being successful, being on a good note. So I want you guys to think about that. Tell me over the next few weeks, and during the off season, we'll open up some conversations about the goods and the bads about the Cincinnati Reds. Because, listen, the off season feels like forever. The winter feels like forever. There's only going to be so much football we could talk about. Basketball's coming up, and I'm going to take the effort into learning some NBA this year. right? Trying to follow a little bit, and I don't know how that's going to work out, but I will put my best foot forward in trying to make that happen. But if not, I still got to want to talk about some Reds. Some baseball, I think, is worth talking about 24/7, especially as we dive into a little bit more. I would like to dive more into the Reds organization this coming up season. So that's what the plan is. But the Reds kick off a opener, not opener, but a 2-game series tonight against the Boston Red Sox. First pitch is scheduled for 6:40. All right, at Great American Ballpark, and the Red Sox are coming into today's game 71-75. I believe that puts them dead last in the American League East. They are eliminated from the playoffs, 17 games back of the division. They're already done for the season, so we're going to see more of a younger version of the Red Sox, but a dangerous Red Sox nonetheless. To say the Reds are 58-89. You think of a team that's 58-89, and they come into this season for the to this series second to last place. All right, they are right behind or equal to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I mean, I told you that hey, listen, the season is wrapping up. You think about all the other games that are set to come for the Cincinnati Reds, and you dive into the schedule here. You got the Red Sox 2-game series. You got 4 more games in Milwaukee, and I'm going to be excited on Thursday. And the reason I'm going to be excited is that I tell you this. I told you this a couple weeks ago. I'm going to say this again. Milwaukee is in a position to make a wild card claim. You take a look at the wild card as of today. Milwaukee is 2.5 games back of the third position Philadelphia Phillies. Wouldn't it be nice for the Reds to go into the weekend at home and take care of Milwaukee before the end of the season and kind of put a little bit of salt in the wound of possibly not allowing Milwaukee going into the playoffs? But that is this weekend. We'll talk a lot about that on Thursday. But you think about Milwaukee, they got the second to last homestands with Boston, 2 games with Boston, 4 games with Milwaukee, 3 games in Pittsburgh. And I mean, you look at the last series where they got swept by Pittsburgh. Boy, I mean, we'll love to make that return. And we're going to go into Pittsburgh next week, and I would love to pick up a series sweep or a series victory. And then they got 3 against Chicago, at Chicago, and then 3 at home to finish off the season. So not many more games left. I think about 15 games left to be on the radar here. But the Boston Red Sox are in town, and they kick off at 6:40 tonight. We'll like to pick up a victory as you have Nick Lodolu on the mound for the Reds. 4-6, 3.81 ERA, 113 strikeouts, facing up against Byron Bello, who's 1-5, 5.10 ERA, 42 strikeouts. You take a look at Barrow. He's last game he's pitched was back on the 14th, where he lost, or he may had a no decision, and was it no decision? No, he lost. Excuse me. He lost. He went 5 innings, 6 hits. Well, you know what? He didn't lose. I misread it over here. Back on the 14th against the Yankees, he went 5 innings, 6 hits, no runs, with 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. Over the last 7 games, he's 1-4, 2.97 ERA. I think a good chance to have a good, a bad outing out on the road. I don't want to, jeopardize anything, but last road game he had was back on September 9th, where he lost. He went 5-1, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts. So good opportunity, and not many Reds have. There's no Reds that are scheduled to be in the lineup tonight that has yet to see them. So listen, Boston comes into town. I've always thought, when Boston and the Yankees come into town, the Dodgers come into town, Cardinals come into town. Obviously, that's a rivalry team. Whenever, especially Boston and Yankees, those are 2 notorious teams. out there in the American League that you really want to take, fascination to. So tuning into tonight's game, seeing how the Reds can pull something off, hopefully, with a victory and finishing up the season strong. All right, let's dive into the rest of the season, though. All right, rest of Major League Baseball. I was watching some baseball. Well, matter of fact, I was listening to some baseball just for a little bit yesterday. All right, and you had the Twins, and you had the Guardians, and this is a must-win scenario for the Minnesota Twins. The position that they're at here in the American League Central. Obviously, the wild card is out of the chase. They're about 8.5 games back of Seattle. They still got to go through the White Sox. They still got to go through Baltimore. But right now, it looks like that the position that we're going to be at is if Minnesota wants to win a division, they're going to need some miracles to happen. And right now, they're 73 and 40 and 74. They are just one game under 500. They're about 7 games back of the division, and they're about 9 games away from being eliminated. And Minnesota coming into last night's game, they lost 11-4 against Cleveland. Cleveland wrapping things up. They're going to be headed off to Chicago facing the White Sox in a big 3-game series against the White Sox beginning tonight. White Sox are 76 and 71, 4 games back. So this series could really do some playoff implications. You think about, just a 2-game, series would be, a 3-game series, but a 2-game, series victory. And you could be looking yourself into a possible swap of the division. So things are winding down. Things are heating up. We'll take a look at yesterday in the scores around the Major League Baseball and the standings. That's still all to come. Plus, we still have the NFL to talk about. We'll talk about some Bengals highlight at the top of the hour, all finishing up with how Monday Night Raw ended, and to take a look at a couple of matches looking into AEW Grand Slam, which is Wednesday night. So I'm excited about that. We'll talk some college football as well. Much more still to come, taking you guys up into 11 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. $9:44 here on the throw-in Tuesday morning. TNC Sports Talk is given to you, in thanks to the StreamYard. StreamYard Studios is a proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube page. Create your podcasts, YouTube videos, host live interviews, and host visual and conduct business meetings. Yeah. All through StreamYard.com. If you head on over to StreamYard.com, don't forget to try out their free version. I'd like to give them a shout out. We've been using StreamYard.com or StreamYard since day one. Love the application. Very easy to use, very complimentary on what we're trying to conduct here. And man, listen, teams are just trying to punch their ticket into the postseason as we sit here Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. Just about, you think about this week, next week, and then a half a week from there. So I want to say about 2 weeks to fair to say that baseball will be wrapping up. And this is the time where the time of the season where you kind of just start looking into not only teams that are making destiny to the postseason, to October baseball, but you're also making historical claims. I mean, I'm sure that over the last few weeks, people have not been living underneath the rock because Aaron Judge, for example, he's hit another bomb in New York last night as the Yankees go on and was it last night? No, it was last night. It was back on Sunday. I think it was Sunday. I think he's sitting at 59. Let me look at some of the stats. There we go. Let me look at he's sitting at 59 home runs over the coming into tonight's game. And there's a lot that, if you're paying around, paying attention to some news coming out of baseball coming into this weekend. Aaron Judge is at 59. He's too shy away of Roger Ramirez. Most single season home runs in American League history, in American League baseball, in the American League in history as a right-hander. And he'll be the Yankees will be playing the Pittsburgh Pirates tonight, home game. It's a 2-game series, from my understanding. 16 games left on the season, and there's no doubt about it. There's projection that he's expected to approach 65. He's projected to hit about 65 home runs. I mean, and I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, he's had. I think it's difficult because even I take with myself is that I've known that this is the pace and this is the record that people are looking to come up to, right? And I think in history you want to be a part of it. Like, for example, I want to be there listening to Albert Pujols' 700th home run. Do you think that every time the Cardinals play, I want to be diving into that game? They play tonight in San Diego against the Padres. And so, am I going to be tuning in to Albert Pujols? I mean, can he have a multiple night home run? I got that feeling. I don't know if he's going to be able to have a multiple night home run, but he has a handful of games left also. And I mean, there's no doubt that he's going to join the 700 club. But there's moments in history, especially in baseball, that are taken for granted because the season is really long, 162 games. And we'll probably talk about this during the off season. And I think there's a lot of people that can sit around and talk about and make their case on why, an MLB season should be cut down. But, in my, my thought process is that, as much as I follow baseball, is that I've known Albert Pujols is on the verge of 700 for the past few weeks. I know Aaron Judge is on the pace to 65 home runs for the past month and a half. I mean, it's been ridiculous. It's been a ridiculous, coming around Major League Baseball, some of these record-breaking seasons. And so as we dive in towards the end of the season, the last just few weeks, this is kind of where you have to kind of set your path, your priorities aside. For example, the Arizona Diamondbacks, I'm pretty sure that today when I come in, because I got to work today, is that the first game I'm going to tune into is Arizona and the Dodgers. I mean, have we not? I don't think a lot of people have appreciated the type of season the Dodgers have had sitting at 102. And they still have 2 weeks away. Now, we saw the Giants have 100 plus games, on itself, but the Dodgers are doing something that, the Yankees try to do at the first half of the season. And the Dodgers have been able to just carry that over to the second half of the season. And now they're on the verge of, just having a monstrous 110, 115 game win. All right. Good question for you. Will the Dodgers come to 110 wins before the Reds lose 100 wins? That's what I want to ask you guys. See where your guys' head stands on that. The Reds sit at 58 and 89, 11 games away. I mean, that means out of 15 games, they have to lose 11 games. Will the Reds make it to 100 losses? I think that's the first question. And could the Dodgers win 8 more games before the Reds lose their 11? Is it more likely to see the Dodgers at 110 wins or to see the Reds at 100 losses? all right, let me know. But we took, but it's just those simple things, and that's because the season is so long. So if you're looking for anything to tune into for baseball, any reasoning to tune in for baseball, there's a few things in mind. All right, let's talk about the few things in mind. I think if you're a West Coast fan and you're a Dodgers fan and you want to just root for a team in California in general, those Dodgers sitting at 102-44, I think is substantial enough to follow, to pay attention to, because and it's a classic. You see the Dodgers. Hey, you can almost guarantee that the Dodgers walk away with the victory. They have a 2-game series tonight against Arizona. They will kick the things off at 3:10 Eastern time, followed by 10:10 tonight. If you're also looking for some West Coast action, those Cardinals and the Padres, like I said, Albert Pujols at 698. I believe it's 698. He's looking to get to 700. Is that this series of tonight? You have Adam Wainwright taking on Mike Clevinger. That will be at 9:40 Eastern time. Taking a look around also, if you want to look into and pay attention to the Aaron Judge home run, like I said, he's 2 away from Roger Maris, and he's going to be joining a club like Barry Bonds, like Sammy Sosa, and Mark McGuire. I mean, this is a big schedule here. They play tonight 7:05 p.m. All right, so you could take a look at the at Aaron Judge there. We also have some playoff implication games going on starting tonight. The Mets over in Milwaukee, and mainly for New York, they're 94-55. They recaptured first place after the Braves fall to 92-55. I take a look at some of the standings and the wild card implications. The Mets have clinched the playoff spot, and they just need a couple. They're 1 game ahead of the Braves, so they're looking for divisionals. I gotta, it's going to be one's going to obviously clinch the champion, the East, and the one's going to have the first seed in the wild card, as both of them 90+ wins. But Atlanta sits 11.5 games comfortably above the in the National League wild card. The San Diego Padres 81-66, a half a game above, and Philadelphia Phillies 80-66, right there at that third marker spot. But if you're looking into games for that, the Mets and the Milwaukee's a couple games back. They want to try to hold on and try to surpass either the Phillies or the Padres. They try to do that tonight against the Mets. Every victory counts, and that's why I say that. Hey, listen, you have to. We talked to we talk about every game counts. I mean, Minnesota yesterday dropped 11-4 against the Cleveland Guardians, and now you look into the standings. They move back. The Minnesota Twins move back to 7 games back, and the AL Central is going to come down to the division. There's no doubt about it. It's only going to be whoever wins the division is going to represent the American League Central in the playoffs. But then they lost their game. That's the last game the Twins lost their game against Cleveland, and that's the last game they're going to be playing against Cleveland the rest of the season. So now Chicago, is hosting Cleveland, and Minnesota wants Chicago to win to give them an opportunity. But we'll dive in, but we have some great playoff implication games coming in to tonight. Let's continue here. I got going back and forth between screens. You got the Blue Jays and the Phillies, as the Phillies try to hold on to that third wild card spot as well. And then the Guardians taking on the White Sox, as the White Sox are 4 games back in the Central, trying to close in a neck-and-neck race to walk away with the American League Central Division. Take a look, just a brief rundown into the wild card and the playoff picture as of right now. Houston leads comfortably in the American League, followed by the Yankees and Cleveland. Toronto has a 1.5 game above, is 1.5 games above Tampa Bay, and then Seattle sits comfortably in that third position. And Baltimore, who's only 5 games back in the wild card, followed by the White Sox, who are 5.5 games back. They're looking to impress them, their record, to help their case for the wild card standings, as well as we wind down just about 2 weeks left to baseball. Obviously, the Dodgers won the National League West. They hold they hold a comfortable lead here in the divisional leaders. They also will the Mets are right behind them, followed by the St. Louis Cardinals, who can be wrapping their case up here very shortly. Atlanta Braves, like I mentioned, 11.5 games up. San Diego Padres, a half a game above Philadelphia. Milwaukee trying to look in and trying to capture the playoff spot, just 2.5 games back of Philadelphia. San Francisco is just 10.5 games back. Doesn't look even close that they could catch up. So that is your American League standings there. All right, let's take a break. We're wrapping up hour number 1 here. Want to dive into some football conversations. We'll talk about some Cincinnati Reds. Is it too early after heading into week 3 to press that panic button? Okay. Plus, a lot of injuries going around. Take a look at some college stats and rankings and everything. NFL reports as well. So a lot to come here. Still, hour number 2 coming up next here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Right here, coach, trust him.
Yep, they're going for it. Out of the gun. The pass down the middle, and it's on target for the first down to Noah Brown. I was saying these two have a lot of practice time together playing on the second squad. That's a gain of 17 on 4th and 2.
And this is why I thought they had a chance. You're going to see Noah Brown go up, and everyone's 4th and 2. They're going to stay low, right? Defenders, they're not going to. You saw Turpin right there. Jet sweep, but they really want him to get involved in the slot outside, and I think you'll see that more and more.
12th play of this drive. 2nd and 7 from the 9. His rush looks to the end zone, tosses it, and it's caught by Noah Brown for the touchdown.
An opening drive. Inside receiver, Noah Brown. He's been here a while. He has a lot of reps, and he runs right across.
Just 39 years young, 4th year. Here's a 2nd and 11. The pressure. Burrow looking for somewhere to go, and Micah Parsons says, I'll take you right here at the 31. Tight end Mitchell Wilcox, and there were some issues. There's Adamitis snapping it back to Huber, and the kick for McPherson is dead center. Good. Still like Lamb right here at the bottom of the screen, 3rd and 9.
Yep.
Down the middle they go, and it's Noah Brown for the 3rd time. What a combo this has been in this opening quarter. He got away from Eli Apple for 28. Got a 2nd and 10 instead in the final minute of the first quarter. They toss it. Pollard. Pollard finds an opening. Pollard inside the 20. And Pollard down. Is he across? Touchdown, Dallas. He earned it. Can he get it? He's got it. Touchdown, Dallas.
I mean, this is really impressive. I did not expect to see the push. Overreaction. Watch that right side. Zach Martin just opens it, and then you see Terrence Steele push Hill 90.
Trailing by double digits in the first half. Still, first quarter was 17 seconds to go. Burrow is swamped back at the 18-yard line by Dorrance Armstrong.
Just trusting the plan, trusting the players. We look at 4th and 2 as a favorable down the distance, especially that part of the field.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
2nd and 16. Thank you, Tracy, as Burrow slides. 3rd down and 9 with 2 tight ends in. Cowboys pressure. Burrow's going to run for it. He's going to get it. And he's hit again, and that's going to be another flag on Dallas. A reckless hit by Donovan Wilson after the quarterback gave himself up on the slide on Cincinnati's last possession. Here's the 2nd and 6. Pressure. Ball's out. Ball's on the ground.
It's a fight for it.
Parsons.
Oh, who's going to get it?
Parsons and Mixon are the two tangling for it. They say Mixon has hold of it. So 54 yards it is for the 14-point lead with 14 seconds to go in the half. There's the kick. Plenty of leg. Clark Harris, the snapper. Again, Adamitis, the new long snapper, and everything. Whoops. I thought the game was more interesting than that.
I think most Cowboy fans thought that could happen the other way,
exactly.
right? But now all of a sudden,
little play action and time for the first time.
There it is.
And there's Higgins. It's a new thing around here, the Texas three-step by Micah Parsons. Here's McPherson with the field goal from 46 out on 6 carries. He had a very big start to this game. Here's a 2nd and 8. Complete. Schultz. Ball's out. And the Bengals have a takeaway. And it's DJ Reader.
It's like, I think you'll see them get a little bit more, and Cooper Rush can handle it. I think we've seen that.
There's an opening for Pollard, and he's out to the 44. Chase on the near side, 4th down and 6. He's looking for Chase, and he's able to hold on right in front of Diggs. Diggs tried to reach out and get a hand on it. Here's Burrow looking for a second option, sliding. Signals, throws, Higgins, touchdown, Cincinnati. Thinking of this one on this whole drive, you know it.
Watch this. Does anybody right there on that D-line look like they're going to rush and get to the quarterback? I mean, they're just standing there. You got all day. That's the part where you got to go ahead and motion down, get a chip on Micah Parsons, and then get this ball out quickly.
Looking right, looking down the middle, and it's caught. It's Boyd, and the game is square at 17. Oh, boy, slow to develop. Hubbard waiting on Elliott.
This first play is probably the most important play.
Here's Rush. Completes it. So Lamb, we got a flag down in the middle of the field.
And downs, that's an interesting, I mean, you can go either way. That's always a discussion.
Here's Rush. Ball's wobbling, but it's caught. It's caught by Noah Brown at the 45. The ball was deflected at the line by Logan Wilson. This is 50.
Does he do it, Jeff?
There it is on the way. Maher's kick. It's good. Cowboys win it.
Oh gosh, a little hurt coming into another loss here for the Bengals, and I think one of the things you could take away this game after listening to some of the highlights is the Bengals are just down. They were down the entire game, 14-3 after the first quarter. Cowboys go put up 3 in the second quarter, and then another 3 in the fourth quarter. And the Bengals could only muster, 9 points. Not 9 points, 17 points. And I was actually feeling very, optimistic. Listen, losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the fashion way that they did it, did so back in week 1. For me, was just a little a little chip off the shoulder, right? I mean, all right, it was a lot of both teams had trouble kicking field goals at the end of the game. I mean, obviously a game that should have been won by the Bengals last Sunday, and then they come into this game and you felt pretty confident if you were a Bengals fan that, all right, listen, week 1's behind us. We are able to go into Dallas. They don't have Dak Prescott, so that won't be a challenge. And you gotta face a guy of Cooper Rush. And I'm like, for a moment, it's like, Cooper Rush, who is he? Who in the world is Cooper Rush? And yet again, he goes 19 for 31, not the best percentage. He goes 235 yards with 1 touchdown in there. I mean, when you compare him the stats to Joe Burrow, to 24 for 36, I think that's a better output than Cooper's percentage. And then 199 yards with 1 touchdown. Mixon 19 carries, 57 yards. Wasn't the greatest performance by him, Joe Burrow had almost 4 carries with 26 rushing yards, averaging 6.5 in the game. All right. T. Higgins, 71 yards and 6 receptions with a touchdown. Jamar Chase, and I think this is going to be Jamar Chase's issue this season. All right, is that he only goes 5 receptions, 54 yards. Don't expect a lot out of him. All right, this year, especially this year. All right, you have to think about. It's going to be Chase. People are going to team up and say, "All right, let me go after Chase, and let me pair up against Higgins. Let me pair up against Boyd." Which means is that you're going to have to rely on Wilcock. You're going to have to rely on Drew Sample. You're going to have to rely on Hayden Hurst, all right, to do a lot of your catching. And I think there's going to have to be an adjustment. Don't get me wrong. All right, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, they're going to all have big games, right? They're going to all have an opportunity to make big plays, especially when the big plays are needed to make plays. But right now, all right, we're heading into week 3. All right, these teams aren't stupid. They know, hey, we have to go after and defend, put our best matchups against their best matchups. And right now, their best matchups are 1, 2, and 3. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. And, listen, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they're going to be at the top of the totem pole each and every week. I think Joe Burrow needs to make that mix and needs to make that understanding that, hey, Hurst needs to step it up. He went 5 receptions, 24 yards. All right. Mitchell Wilcox, 1 reception in the game. All right. Drew Sample, 1 reception, -4 yards. So one key issue is that the Bengals need, especially Joe Burrow, he needs to start making and getting through to these younger guys. These guys are not named, right? That you don't go into the roster and say, hey, I know that guy. He's been with the team. Or, he's a solid prospect, whatever the case may be. Joe Burrows needs to get to them and say, hey, listen, I got these 1, 2, and 3 guys that are going to be defended each and every time. You know what that means? Is that they're not going to put the best blockers on you. You got to get open, all right? Because it's going to come to you to make the simple plays, the simple catches to get us down the field. So take advantage of the opportunity that is given to you. That's why I say with the receivers, all right? You also look at, fumbles. Joe Burrow had a fumble, right? We looked a lot better, obviously, out of our special teams unit. Defensive always solid. Back to that offensive line. Another 6 sacks. It is kind of like you want to sit there and just vomit, because everything that took place last season, once again, is taking place in the first 2 weeks alone. And you lost not 1, but now 2 games, in games that, you should have had a comfortable lead in. All right, okay, like I said, let's go back to week 1. I understand the first game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, it was kind of a back and forth game. You couldn't kick the game-winning field goal. You should have won the game. You didn't win the game. Right, when you cost the team to go into overtime, which then you miss other opportunities. So there was just missed opportunities. The Bengals coming into week 2. Right, you play catch up from game 1, from the first quarter. 4th down, 14-3. It's just, it makes it the team, it makes it difficult. And it's great. Listen, Joe Burrow can sit there and make a comeback all he wants. And I think it shows the gut and willingness that they could play all 4 quarters. But it's one thing to try to make a comeback. It's another thing to actually get over the hump. And so if you're sitting here, you take diving into, the whole Bengals, conspiracy, listen, I want the Bengals to play just as good as anyone else. I will love to see, I told you guys at the beginning of the season, I told you guys at the end of last season that, season 2 is where it's at. I've been telling people I've talked to all the time that season 2, that this season here is more important than last year. Right? It's one thing to make it to the playoffs. It's one thing to make it to the Super Bowl, but it's another thing to be able to repeat it. All right, there's very few teams. Tom Brady's one of them. He's able to repeat his actions. Tom Brady. You also have, Patrick Mahomes. He's another one. Josh Allen's is another one. Aaron Rodgers. So if you want to be considered among the list of greats like Mahomes and an Allen and a Brady, then you have to be able to make a repeat back at it. And I get it. Everyone has their slumps. Joe Burrow was taking a little longer to get into his. I understand. But the simple things need to be accomplished. All right, these younger guys need to get their hands on the ball more. Joe Burrow needs to find himself, and these offensive line has to block. All right, you just can't win. All right, key things about winning the game each and every week is a good defense and the run system. You got to have the run system, and you don't have either or. So very disappointed. Nothing too out of the normal here. Yeah, everything looks pretty good when it comes down to injury reports. So, listen, we're heading into week number 3. All right, we're 0-2. We're going to head over to New York and face the Jets. The Jets, by the way, who won back on Sunday. Very impressive. All right, come back and beat the Cleveland Browns, which, I'm actually happy for them. But anyway, let's take a step aside. When we come back, I want to give you a couple of my surprising games that really took me by surprise this past weekend. And then we'll talk a little bit about college football. I want to talk a little bit about high school football as well, just because some things that came across my table I cannot miss. Still a lot more to come. Taking you guys up into 11 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Hour number 2 of the Throw-In with Justin, taking you guys up into 11, is given to you thanks to the music from Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. I always plan these shows out ahead of time, try to get all my facts in order, trying to get everything in place, just to come back and almost be like, oh, I don't have much time for this. And, I'm trying to cover the main stories, the main subjects, and the main news. And, like I said, it's a little difficult when the Bengals lose. Yikes. What happens when you have something else on your screen and the audio plays? It's like, oh, what's going on? In that sense. But all right, so week number 2 of the NFL finished off yesterday with a couple of victories coming from a couple of blowout, by the way, coming from the Buffalo Bills beating the Titans 41-7, and those Eagles beating the Vikings 24-7. Now, first thing I will claim, a couple of things coming out of the weekend. Earlier last Thursday, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Los Angeles Chargers 27-24. Kansas City Chiefs are 2-0. In my impression, the Chiefs' victory was, that was already the first primetime game of the 2022 season. When I think of primetime games, I'm talking about Thursday Night Football being an important game because you don't see a lot of those, right? You saw the Chargers and you saw the Chiefs. Both teams went into the game 1-0, and the Chiefs went away with the victory. All right? I felt that it was a more important victory for the Chargers to have in Kansas City. They came up short. Now, it just argues, and it comes to the conclusion of my argument, that Kansas City and the Buffalo Bills is an automatic statement that they are the team to beat, and they are the best teams in the NFL as of right now. All right. There's no other team in the NFL right now, not the Bengals, not the Buccaneers, not the Los Angeles Rams. The Chiefs and the Bills are the 2 primetime teams in the NFL this season. If you're facing the Bills or the Chiefs this year, you are an honorary of, hey, I got to beat them. If you beat the Bucks, you beat the Bucks. It is what it is, right? It's nothing special. If you beat Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, you beat the Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. But if you beat the Bills or you beat the Chiefs this season, man, you got something special going on there. All right, you did something nice. So those are the two outcomes over last night game. I don't feel like there's not much to get into, at least not into today. Each and every week. Last week I came on here and I told you that, any given Sunday is back. Right? We saw a lot of upsets. And, there was some more upsets today, last week. But there was a lot of things going on this past weekend. I mean, are you surprised where we take a look around the AFC North, right? Because, obviously we know that the Bengals lost, right? And I think we're upset about that, and we're kind of wondering if we should hit the panic button or not. I don't think so quite yet. And the only reason why I don't think so is because everyone else in the North lost last week. You got you had the Miami Dolphins coming back and beating the Baltimore Ravens coming after having a 20-point deficit. They beat them 42 to 38. The New York Jets come back from behind, beating the Cleveland Browns 31-30. And then the New England Patriots, all right, Bill Belichick beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in 17-24. And where do I start among that? Well, let me start off. I mean, I told you that I don't believe nothing in Cleveland. I absolutely don't think that the Cleveland Browns have anything to do this season whatsoever. They didn't go out and get themselves a quarterback. They went out and actually invested into a quarterback that won't come back until Thanksgiving. Well, I'm sorry to say this. I think it's a little too late and a little too long for that. Take a look at Pittsburgh. All right. Mitchell Trubisky didn't have a bad game 2 weeks ago. And I don't think that he had a terrible game back on Sunday against the Patriots. And I chose the Steelers to win. Now, I was giving them a little benefit of the doubt because Bill Belichick was so set 2 weeks ago on going into Miami and beating the Dolphins, and they get lost. But maybe I oversold myself against Pittsburgh because the first home game, throughout the entire game, you heard Kenny Pickett and Pickett chants. Now, the Steelers, listen, I don't know what they're going to have this year. I don't know if I feel like they're about a 500 ball club. I don't know about you, but I feel like they're a 500 ball club. And I just don't know if they have enough what it takes, especially through the dynamic. Now, are you planning on sticking with Mitchell Trubisky the entire season? Or is when the going gets rough, are you going to throw Kenny Pickett out there? You see, you drafted Pickett. There's not a quarterback that gets drafted lately that sits on the bench the entire season. So at some point this year, you are going to see Pickett in the game, starting games. What happens if the Steelers are good? All right. I mean, I highly doubt it. All right. I mean, I like I said, 500 ball club at best. Anything more surprises me. But the one that really shocks me and gets my attention, okay, is Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, yeah, they're given the fact that they lost. Okay, 42-38. Lamar Jackson runs to a quarterback record 100 yards rushing game thanks to a career-long 79-yard touchdown. That surpasses him with 11 games with 100 yards rushing or more. Surpasses Michael Vick. You think about, and you talk about coming into this season. Now, Ravens were kind of a quiet team last year. They kind of stayed on the down low. Now, given Lamar Jackson wasn't 100%, there was still plenty of stuff that, they didn't really make an impact. They missed the playoffs. I know that this year is the year that Lamar Jackson should want to have to play well. Listen, he hasn't negotiated a contract extension. All right. If he's going to become a free agent here soon, maybe he wants to go to a different team. I don't see that happening. I think that the Ravens, they have the money. They will give him the money. They just don't want to. I don't think the Ravens want to invest into an injury. All right, there's so many quarterbacks. I mean, they don't want to repeat Joe Flacco. But I like the Baltimore Ravens. I've already said, you know, and I said this at the beginning of the show. I predicted that the Bengals winning the AFC North, not by a lot. Okay, I still watch out for the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson this year has a comeback year. I think the Ravens go back to the playoffs. Now, you know, as sitting as week 2, I you know, if you ask me at week 2 with the performance I've seen from both of these squads, who I would take, I'm sorry, I kind of have to linger towards the Ravens taking the division and the Bengals taking a wild card spot. I still believe that the Bengals have a perfect opportunity at the wild card spot just because the entire division lost. Let's not forget about the Giants going 0-2 on the season. Giants are a team that, you know, I don't know exactly where they are going to, you know, where they're going to fit in. I don't know how they're, you know, with Dak Prescott out for a week, he may be coming back this week, if not next week or so. I mean, but with Dallas Cowboys now, what they sit at 1-1. You don't want the New York Giants, or nonetheless, you don't want the Philadelphia Eagles to go 2-0 and have a. I mean, I feel like the East now is going to be a little tougher division. We're going to talk a little bit into that. The bigger conversation I want to get into is the Trey Lance injury during the Seahawks game. Now, I was complexing this or a injury or the incident that happened between New Orleans and Tampa Bay. We'll break that down because I want to sit on that because, okay, New Orleans and Tampa Bay game, they had a fight on Sunday. I thought that was a really good fight. I really enjoyed it. And as of right now, from my understanding, from the news sources that told me, all right, that I found that Mike Evans has been the only player suspended. Both Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore were ejected from the game on Sunday in a controversy, in a fight. Mike Evans is suspended for 1 game. No other suspensions were handed out. I want to see and wait one more day to see if there's any other updates and news based off of that before we talk about that and break that down. But so let's talk about the Seahawks and the 49ers, because the biggest thing I want to come away here is that, you know, I was kind of funny about this. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback for the 49ers. They led him to the Super Bowl, led them to the playoffs and whatnot. And then they pick up Trey Lance. And I don't know what people see in Trey Lance. Now, for me, it's the same reason why I don't see Joe Burrow as a top 5 quarterback. It's because I haven't seen enough of Burrow. And at the way he's going, he's not a top 5 quarterback right now. If he comes back and pulls around in the season, that's a different conversation. But I don't see nothing in Trey Lance. I haven't seen enough of him. So I can't really make an acquisition or a decision on his performance. And it's going to take a little longer now do so because of his injury compared to, you know, just like Joe Burrow when he got hurt the first year, his rookie career, and he was out for the season. I couldn't judge Joe Burrow off of 1 year. So Trey Lance is going to have to sit tight on my radar before I take a look at him. But, you know, 49ers see something in Trey Lance. And I think, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, what do you weigh in your means? You know, you got Jimmy Garoppolo another at least 3 to 5 years in the system. Do you go with the quarterback that you believe in? And I think the 49ers have chose to go with the quarterback that they believe in, and that's Trey Lance. He's a younger kid. He could he's long, you know, he could play longer in the league, you know, according to hopefully, you know, his, you know, injury, you know, recovery as well. And I'm not one to ever wish anyone, you know, a terrible recovery, you know. So I wish, you know, Trey Lance a speedy recovery. I want the competition, but there was a little saltiness at the beginning of the season when you find out that Jimmy Garoppolo comes back as a backup quarterback. Now, I believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is a starting quarterback. I personally believe that. And, you know, listen, that is just the design of the nature here. And, you know, he got shopped around. But here's the difference is that when you look for starting quarterbacks, you have to look and seal your starting quarterback position in March and in April, just because, all right, just because of the simple underestimating position that, hey, if if it's a new quarterback, they got to come in, they got to learn the playbook, they got to make adjustments to the scheme. You got to start learning your players, you got to start learning your coaches and acclimate to them. So there's a process as a quarterback. And don't think that any quarterback could just walk into an NFL team and say, all right, give me the ball. I know exactly what you're running. It doesn't happen that way. What happens is that you have to get yourself acclimated. It takes a couple weeks. It takes a couple months. So during the off season, teams will pick out either quarterbacks by April or March or April. And therefore, you go out and you sign your quarterback, and there you have it. When Jimmy Garoppolo goes in the market during the preseason, no one wants him. And why would Jimmy Garoppolo want to go to Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh is already invested in the Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky. You got Atlanta trying to rebuild. They're not going to go waste money into a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. Cleveland Browns. The problem with Cleveland Browns is that it works well for 12 weeks, but then when Deshaun Watson comes back, who's going to be the starting quarterback? All right. So I think that staying with San Francisco was a fair decision, especially if you're going to be a backup. You already know everything, and you could definitely work with San Francisco. The problem I have, and it's like, all right, I just felt that he was a starting quarterback. And now, it's a little bittersweet, not to be mean to Trey Lance, but getting hurt kind of gives Jimmy Garoppolo, because Trey Lance wasn't all that pleased hearing that Garoppolo comes back. 2 weeks into it, he gets hurt. He's going to be out for the season. And Jimmy Garoppolo, hey, this is some big boy shoes you got to fill. And this is the year that you have to do it, because if you lead the team back to the playoffs, you force the 49ers to have to reconsider their decision on what the outcome of the future of the 49ers franchise is. Plus, on top of that, if not, you're making your case in this offseason for teams who need quarterbacks next year. So, Jimmy Garoppolo, you wanted your opportunity. Here it is. Go out and make a name for yourself. If you don't succeed, then you're just proving the 49ers are correct. You probably go on free agency next year, and good luck finding a football team. You most likely will, just it's not going to be right away. If you go on and make it to the playoffs, hell, make it back to the Super Bowl. I mean, right now, this entire NFC conference is wide open. Then you have an opportunity. Then you're really just proving San Francisco wrong, and you're giving NFL teams a chance to look at you and decide, hey, do I want him in the offseason? So we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. I know we talked a lot about football, the Bengals. We'll talk about some more football tomorrow as we wrap up week number 2. I was going to get into some college, and I was going to get into some high school football, but there's some wrestling I want to talk about. I do. So we're going to have to put all that stuff on hold for another day. We'll come back tomorrow. It's only got 2 hours here. We're wrapping up our show on a Tuesday. So we'll take our last break of the morning. We'll come back. We'll talk some Monday Night Raw. We'll talk about what's expected to happen this week and all that still to come. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throwing with Justin here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, let's wrap up Tuesday morning here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. to 11, trying to wrap up, continue this week going here. Like I said, just getting back into it for, after being a couple of days off, I wasn't feeling good. And I just, between not feeling good and things I had to take care of, priorities had that lingered into the weekend. It feels a little off, when you miss about 4 or 5 days of sports talk and you come back on a Tuesday, you're trying to catch up with everything that's going on, and a lot of big news coming out of the week. And I kind of want to wrap up that really fast because we have a big week ahead of us, and a couple of stories I wanted you to think about as we get into the conversation this week about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. I always love to make time, 1-2 segments, and lately it's usually been the end of the show, but professional wrestling is kind of the key home of what we talk about here, and we've established ourselves over the last several months into other sports like football and baseball and just local Cincinnati news, and we'll cover more local Cincinnati news coming into the tomorrow show. I have college football and high school football I really want to get to before we head into the weekend. But listen, coming out last Friday, last Saturday, matter of fact, Logan Paul challenges Roman Reigns to a match at Crown Jewel. I was talking when this news broke down. I was talking to a former colleague of mine on this program about it, and I told him it's simple. Listen, I don't mind the match. All right, I don't have a problem with it. All right, after the last couple of matches this year that Logan Paul has had, I think it's a good. I think he's deserved it. Okay, for a Logan Paul standpoint. And there's no doubt about it. I think that Logan Paul is going to give him a run for his money. And actually, I kind of want to just bring up these messages here. So he was talking about it, and opinions on Logan Paul, Roman Reigns for Crown Jewel. I was like, not excited, to be honest. I'm not really that excited. I mean, and he was like, the way I see it, it's something new and fresh. And I was like, the way I see it, new and fresh, yes, absolutely. But this is where Roman Reigns is at in his career and his title reign, is that every opponent from that is coming up and facing him or challenging him needs to be an opponent that you can possibly see as one who can actually dethrone Roman Reigns. And you got to really ask yourself, does Logan Paul have what it takes to dethrone Roman Reigns? Okay. One, do you see the titles being put on Logan Paul? All right. Do you see Logan Paul being the one out of the last 2 years? No one's been able to stop Roman Reigns. So is Logan Paul the guy, really? And on top of that, do they really do that at Crown Jewels? See, Roman Reigns hasn't lost a match, and he makes selective appearances. So when you factor in, you kind of already know coming into this match what the outcome is going to be, at least for the match purposes. Now, now Austin Theory still has an opportunity at catching in the Money in the Bank contract, but his hands are pretty full with Johnny Gargano. So, yes, it's new. Yes, it's fresh. Am I excited about it? Not really, just because where Roman Reigns is at in his title run, it doesn't call for it. But for a guy like Logan Paul, this does a lot for his career. It's not about winning or losing matches. It's about what you do inside the ring. It's about how good, it's going to take a look. You take a look at Roman Reigns and how well he's going to be able to make Logan Paul look good. And then Logan Paul, this is a test of time. Can Logan Paul deal with handle the big dog? He won it in a match this year at WrestleMania. He won against The Miz. So this is, for both men, this is a test, but not for the match itself, or not for the purpose of the match. So, not too big. Other news coming out, Karrion Kross was also officially released after he requested his release from WWE. He says he's going to the statement was, and see if I have it, he wanted to kind of readjust himself in the picture. And so he was going to take some time off, take care of himself and family. There's rumors and speculations that a possible WWE return is forth, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it. But, we wish him the best of luck. All right, but, we take a look in. That was just some of the things that came in throughout the weekend. A little recap from Friday. Ronda Rousey, Liv Morgan set place to have a SmackDown Women's Championship match at Extreme Rules. Make that an Extreme Rules match. I enjoy. I finally like the fact that they have a stipulation. Remember last year when they had the premium lives or pay-per-views, however you want to look at it. Eliminate Extreme Rules came about and they had nothing Extreme Rules about it. The Brawling Brutes have earned the right to challenge the Usos after winning a chaotic 4-way tag match. And it looks like that Solo Sikoa, in my opinion, is the Roman Reigns when Roman Reigns is not there. So as Roman Reigns adjusts to his new schedule in the WWE, as he doesn't make appearances as much anymore, Solo Sikoa steps in and fills in for him, and he's the new face of the bloodline when Roman Reigns is not there. I'm going to be paying attention. I think something you should pay attention to that is see if that causes a feud between Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns later on down the road. All right. Over, a couple of things coming out of this week. We knew we had a big Monday Night Raw last night where we had Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley defending his United States Championship against Seth Rollins. Kicking off Monday Night Raw, and a title match is on a regular show. I think you could kind of put 2 and 2 together, especially the fact that over the past few years, over the past few months, weeks, they've been making the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship the primary on each show. So, it wasn't a bad match. I got a chance to sit down, watch that match, and I think there's more going on between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle that it kind of took away a good finish to this title match. Bobby Lashley retaining the title, but obviously this feud between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle continues. Now, here's what I want to see: Extreme Rules is coming up, Crown Jewel is coming up, and I think it's right to claim that that this needs to take it up a notch. They had a match, Seth Rollins won. Obviously, now things are getting more personal inside this feud. I would like to see an Extreme Rules, a steel cage, an I Quit match, stretcher match, and with this whole new dynamic of professional wrestling coming through this new era, or the Triple H era, I think we could see something be creative. I will say as far as that. Also coming out of the Judgment Day, I felt the Judgment Day also got a chance to re-highlight Monday Night Raw, like they've done last week. They kind of also took over a couple segments here and there from different, and when all of them are involved in the matches, they had the tag team match earlier, throughout the night. What I will say here is one thing that I want to talk a little bit more later on this week is about this, reinventing the women's wrestling in the WWE, getting more creative. And, I sat on this throughout the week when Io Sky and Dakota Kai won the women's tag team championships last Monday night, is that Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez did a great job. But as you're trying to build a division, a women's division, and you're trying to build the tag team division in the women's world, you have to, honestly, put the titles on someone that are going to be able to represent it. And since Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai are all making their, presence known, why not put it on them? Love the controversy. Obviously, Alexa Bliss, Bailey overcomes Alexa Bliss, challenges Bianca Belair to a match at Extreme Rules. And so we're starting to now see this shape and form. And I think a lot of people underestimate Bailey and what she's capable of doing it. And so we'll talk a little bit more about Bailey, about that trio fraction. That's coming up. We'll have a lot more to talk about tomorrow as we wrap up the end of the show. Don't also tomorrow to talk about, because we have a big AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, as we have 2 title matches on the line, all coming out of with Claudio and John Moxley and Bryan Danielson. That's all still to come. I know that also coming up this week is Brody King challenges Darby Allin and Sting to a no DQ match against the House of Black. So I know that shows is going to be pretty invasive. So big week in professional wrestling, kicked off on Monday. I got to tell you, I enjoyed Monday's show on Monday Night Raw for what I was able to watch. Can't wait to watch a little bit more, break down a little bit more. So a couple of questions lingering that we'll cover later on this week. Like I said, think about it. Women's division, raising up to the level. We'll talk about some more football. Braun Strowman and where he's going with the WWE. In the WWE, as we get closer to Extreme Rules coming up here in just a few weeks. Major League Baseball and the playoff race coming into today, and all that fun stuff. Tuesday, right around already here, and I'm ready to go. Anyways, that's going to wrap up our show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. And you guys have yourself a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll see you guys back again tomorrow, 9 a.m. You guys take care. Thank you guys for listening to The Throw In with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.